first and foremost, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So I want to begin with something that was a big fork in the road 6 years ago. This pandemic changed the world, changed a lot of us emotionally, spiritually. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
Well, I be pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, I was teaching really internationally all over the world. Excuse me. I was flying on airplanes, and I mean, I think in 2019 I must have flew almost 100,000 miles. Going and I did it for a little bit of business and stuff like that, but mostly it was teaching people in Europe and South America, the Middle East, all over America, teaching the meditation that I practice. When COVID hit, I was like, oh, what the hell am I going to do now? You know? And somebody came up to me and said, well, why don't you try Zoom? So I said, well, what's Zoom? I had no idea what Zoom was. She said, well, you can connect with people all over the place. So I gave it a try and I was astonished. It worked. I was astonished that I can sit in front of a computer with pictures of people in front of me, transmitting Shakti energy to people that are living on 4 different continents. And I said, Stuart, my God, this is like a gift. It's a gift that you can use to do the work. And also, in 2019, all of that traveling, I wound up in the hospital having a major operation.
Wow.
And it wasn't a heart thing, it was something else. And I said to him, oh, Stuart, you got to stop this. You're going to kill yourself if you keep traveling this way. And then Zoom hit. I almost think like God sent Zoom or God sent COVID so that I could stop this traveling. And I found on Zoom, I connect now. I have classes on Zoom 7 days a week, 7 times a week. And I have people that come to them from the Middle East, from Europe, from South America, from Mexico, all over the United States. And the energy transmission is completely amazing how it works to help people, which is to me was the most astonishing thing of all.
Yeah.
This weekend, I'm having a retreat where people are coming from all over the place for a weekend meditation retreat here in Connecticut. So that's how it changed my life. And I knew I couldn't go back to all that traveling again. I knew that I didn't want to kill myself. And COVID presented me with Zoom, and Zoom opened up this whole avenue of work for me. And it made it possible for people to learn what I teach. They could be living anywhere. And it was a totally extraordinary thing. I always kid around. I said, I say, we have so many problems with electronics and computers and technology. And yet this technology, this Zoom thing, made it possible for me to connect with people everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was an astonishing thing. Not that I have thousands of people coming, I don't, I couldn't do it. But there's 30 people, 25, 40 people that come to a meditation class. And to me, it's an extraordinary thing to see people benefiting this way,
Absolutely.
changing people's lives. People that are grateful, they're finding a whole new approach to the way they view the world and what they can do with themselves creatively. And so, it was COVID. I mean, I got COVID twice while it was here, and I
Yeah.
had to shack up here, and but it changed my life in many ways for the good. And my teacher always told me, he said, you got to find out how to use everything
Yeah.
to do the work that you were born here to do. And even if it seems impossible, there's a way to find how to use it, and how to use what, well, for no better term, God makes available to us in the world and how to use it to, for a positive result. So that's what COVID did for me. Yeah, I got it twice. I was sick, with it twice, but at the same time, it transformed my life. It changed the way I live now. And I'm not getting any younger, and traveling the way I used to travel at this point in my life would be impossible.
So let me ask you, as a yoga master, I'm curious, if I put you in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds at career day and you had to explain the work you that you do, how would you explain that to those kids?
Oh no, you know what I would tell them? Go enjoy your lives and grow up. At some point in the future, you might need what I have to teach, and you'd be welcome to come. At 13 years old, they got to go learn about life. They
Yeah,
got to go make their mistakes. They got to go have relationships and, get involved in the whole economic insanity in the world. They got to get involved in life. And if their karma is going to bring them to wanting a spiritual life and to find out what I do, they will find me. I mean, it's happened with my daughter. I've been trying to get her to do this meditation since she was 16, and she called me up the other day and she would come and then not come. She said, Daddy, I need to do what you teach. And I told her, Anil, look, what I teach is the most important thing I've learned in my life, and I want to give it to you. So now we've started having classes on Zoom. She lives in New Jersey. We started having, when she was ready, she got in touch with me. And that's how I approach it. I wouldn't try to convince 13-year-olds, to do something they might not be ready to do. I would say, go live your lives. And if in some point in the future you want to learn what I have, I'm here. But first, you've got to live your life. Your life has to bring you to a spiritual practice. You can't force it on kids. You will just make them crazy. I remember there were kids that used to live at the ashrams, that I was connected to years ago. Not one of them follows a spiritual path today. Not one of them. I've done that. I've been there. I don't want to hear about it.
yeah.
You know? So, I've learned from them. I said, no, Stuart, let these kids. And then another thing is I wrote a book years ago that I had published called Leah, Story of Meditation and Healing. It's based upon a true thing that happened to me. It was about a young girl, 13 years old, who was told by doctors that she had a cancer the size of a grapefruit inside her and that she had 3 weeks to live. Now, this young kid, I really loved her very much. Her mother used to bring her. She was 7 years old. She attended my classes, and then one time they just disappeared for like 2, 3 years. I didn't see them. And I got a phone call that this girl is in the hospital. Can you please come and see her? And I went to the hospital. And I was told that the doctors gave her 3 weeks to live. And I asked her, first thing I asked her, I said, do you want to live? And she said, yes. I said, told her mother, get rid of your doctor. He's pronounced sentence on your daughter's life. Find another doctor that will support, whatever I'm going to try to do. They can't do anything, but you need to have somebody who says, okay, let's try something else. So what happened was I started working with her in a healing process that I learned from my teacher. And the miracle was, it was like 3, 4, 5 months later, the doctors called up her mother and said, we don't know what's going on here, but this cancer has started to shrink inside your daughter and it's built a sac around itself and it's kind of drying up. We think we can operate now.
Wow.
This is a true story.
Yeah.
And so the mother said, fine. She asked me, I said, yes, it's not east or west, it's whatever works, to help your daughter get her life. Anyway, they operated, they came dancing out of the operating room. We got the whole thing.
Wow.
We got the whole, and, this kid was, she was just an extremely gifted kid. And she would sit and do the meditation for 40 minutes and not move and open and absorb the energy. And when I was working with her, she said something to me. She said, what you do is better than the doctor's medicine. This kid said to me, anyway, I decided years ago that I can't take children into the work that I do. I said, they have to, somehow karma has to bring them to do it. And if karma brings them to do it, then I can truly nurture them and work with them and really provide a very extraordinary life for them. by building a chakra system and opening to a higher force in the universe, and by learning the most fundamental thing that most meditations don't teach, how to develop foundation and grounding inside a person that practices it. Because without grounding and without a foundation, I don't care how much you know about the gods and the cosmos and the whole iconography of Tibetan Buddhism and Hinduism, it's a bunch of nonsense. Because what one has to do is build a foundation inside so that the spiritual energy, they get strong enough inside to be able to absorb the Shakti, the energy that can help them build an inner life that can do three things. First thing is we're born on the earth. And they say, why do we come here? Why? This place is like a madhouse. Why does the soul choose to come here? Well, we have to learn something very important, how to transform suffering into joy and love.
What did you want to be when you were a kid? When you were young, what was your dream job? What did you want to grow up and become?
I used to think about being a doctor, a lawyer, something like that. But I was kind of a gypsy kid, I didn't, I never had a sense of purpose. And I couldn't find it. And it used to make me crazy when I was young. I never could understand why I was there, why I would see my family fighting all the time, why I would see, all the money problems and all the, the politics and the madness in the world. And I said to myself, I didn't understand what I was here. And I've said this in a lot of podcasts, but it's worth repeating. When I was 16 years old, uh, I was in Florida with my mother and sister. We were on vacation in Miami Beach. And we got a phone call that my father was very sick in the hospital. We need to come back to New York. So we flew back to New York. We went to the hospital. My father had about 106-degree fever. He was lying in bed, just shaking. He didn't recognize my mother, my sister, or myself. And this went on for about a week. And just before he died, I went into his hospital room and he was lying in bed. This changed my life in a state of total serenity. There was an inner peace in him that I had never seen before in my life. And the whole hospital room was full of light. And I said to myself, Stuart, what is this? What's going on here? And I took his hand and I said, do you know me? And he shook his head. He didn't say it, he just shook his head. Yes. So I went out into the corridor of the hospital, and I met his nurse. Now, honestly, as I'm sitting here, this nurse changed my life. She said to me, to her experience, and she worked in like an oncological ICU unit in the hospital. She saw people dying all the time. Just before people die, they go into this inner state of serenity. It's like they have let go of everything on the earth. They have let go of all the battles. And that's what happened to my father.
Hmm.
And I said to myself, Stuart, why did he have to wait 49 years to enter the state of serenity 2 hours before he died? I said, no, there must be a way of finding how to live this way in life without waiting 2 hours before I die to become at peace with myself.
Yeah.
And this changed my life. I suddenly had a purpose, and my purpose wasn't to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or this, was to find somebody in the world who could teach me how to do this. Because even when a young age, I understood, so what's the point of making a lot of money if I'm miserable?
Yeah.
If I'm not a happy human being. First thing is, how do I get that kind of inner peace? And then the rest of it will come, whatever I'm supposed to do in life. It took 9 years of searching for this person who could teach me how to do what I was looking for. I was traveling in Europe, in Africa, all over the world, looking for somebody like that. And of course, the absurdity of it all and the paradox is I met him in my hometown in New York City, you know, after going half around the world. And when I met him, it seemingly was an accident, and it wasn't. I was broke. I was living in Paris. I was really broke. I used to do a lot of extra work in movies and stuff like that. And they'd make American films in Paris, and I always got a call and would do extra work. And that's how I kind of earned a living there. And there were no more movies, and I was broke. So I called a friend of mine and I said, can you please maybe send me a plane ticket? I'll just pay you back when I get a job in New York. And he sent me a plane ticket. I flew back to New York. I was living on the floor of his apartment. I was about 25 years old at the time. And he said to me, Stuart, let's go out and have some dinner. And I said, okay. There was a restaurant in Greenwich Village we used to like. It used to serve Mideastern food, and I still like that kind of food. And we're walking on 7th Avenue South, and we came to an Oriental art shop. And we're looking in the window, and my friend said, why don't we go in there? I said, Charlie, I'm broke. This stuff costs a fortune. He said, Stuart, you love this stuff. And I did. Eventually wound up having a gallery selling ancient art from India and China and, that kind of. And he said, you love this stuff. And I said, yeah, but I'm broke. He said, come, it doesn't cost a look. I walked in the door, and standing in the middle of his gallery was this man, and he had an energy coming out of him that was exactly like the energy I experienced in my father's hospital, except it wasn't an energy of dying. It was a serenity and an inner peace and a joy that came out of him of life, of living. And I was attracted to him like a magnet. And he said to me, he showed me pictures of him studying with his teacher in India and said, if you want to come study with me, come back here tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. And I did. I went back there at 5 o'clock, showed me an exercise, a breathing technique that was exactly what I was looking for. He showed me that the first step in this exercise is building foundation inside yourself, learning where in the chakra system is the very core of your being, how to develop that, how to build that. And I said, my God, this is what I'm looking for. How can I live in New York City if I don't have the strength to be able to deal with the kind of craziness that goes on there? Anyway, I started studying with him, and I started building that kind of an inner life. It didn't come in a week and a half. I studied with him for 6 years, and he trained me in this meditation practice that he developed and he taught to me. This man died in an airplane crash, and I was with him in the airplane. And I was holding his hand when this plane we were flying and hit a mountain. It was one of these Cessna four-seater planes. We hit a mountain and he died. And I can honestly tell you, the only reason I survived is he put his life force inside me.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. When I finally realized he was gone, I started giving him artificial respiration and anything I could do. And I just looked at him and I just said, well, thank you for letting me be with you the last moment of your life.
Wow. Wow.
And I spent the night on top of a mountain in the end of February, at February 21st, on the top of a mountain, and walked down with the two other people and myself. We survived the crash. And
Wow.
I know he put his life inside us.
Yeah.
I also understood, Stuart, you are a living miracle. You have a purpose in the world. And your purpose is to serve a higher energy in the universe. And no matter what you have to do, to earn a living and all the other stuff of life, it can never interfere with serving that higher force in the universe. And you have to do it. I mean, I remember once I was fed up with ashrams and people and all the bullshit that used to go on and stuff. So I went to India and I was in South India and I went to Ramana Maharshi's ashram. And I walked up the side of the mountain where he used to meditate in a cave like for 10 years. And I needed an answer to my quandary. I sat down in that cave and suddenly the cave filled up with life. And he screamed at me, right? His soul force was, your job is in the world. You cannot escape to a monastery. You have to do your work in the world. You have to transform life into a temple. You have to transform life into the guru. Life is the guru, not you, not any Swami, not life itself is the guru. It's the greatest university that exists. And you have to transform and develop the capacity to make the life you live into something that embraces the guru, which is not you, not even your teacher. It's life. And everything that life teaches you, it teaches you for one reason, so that you can grow and develop inside yourself a deeper connection with higher energy in the universe. This is how my life
I
changed.
love it. Yeah, no, that's great. So I'm curious, after all of this time and this road that you've been on, the evolution, the growth, everyone has this perception of who they think you are. Family, friends, everyone that takes your class, everybody on Zoom, everybody that you affect, but you run the show, your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm Stuart Perrin. That's who I think I am. Look, I'll tell you something. My teacher, Rudi, you would have loved him. He was an extraordinary guy. He was like a jazz show, Rudi. I mean, he was an incredible guy. And he said to me one day, I'm sitting with him in his gallery, he said, Stuart, why am I different than anybody else? They said to him, I go to the movies. I like to eat in Chinatown and Chinese restaurants and go out I watch television. Why am I different? And I'm sitting there looking at this light coming out of him, this energy coming at it. So I said, Rudy, you're different. Trust me. And he really, and then I once read in a book a Japanese Zen saying that I think really stayed with me. And it was before enlightenment, carrying water and plowing the fields. After enlightenment, carrying water and plowing the fields. The difference isn't, external, it's internal, how you live. And I live and I go out, I go to restaurants, I have a wonderful woman who lives with me. I live a life. And I don't want to be a guru. I was a guru and it's really boring, to sit there and live on an ivory tower. Everybody worships you. And I finally gave it up, and I said, no, this is not the way I want to live. I said, I'm here to nurture people so they can find their own individual connection with God. And I said to myself, Stuart, there are no two people in the world you know, that aren't unique. Everybody is an individual. And no two people can have the same connection with higher energy that you have. Your job is to get them strong enough to build their own unique connection with God. And I said, Stuart, you know, I enjoy walking down the streets without people chasing after me. I enjoy going to a restaurant, and having a good meal. And life is wonderful.
Yeah,
And the thing that really affected me so profoundly was I saw my teacher, Rudi, transform a place like New York City into a temple.
yeah.
It became sacred living in New York City. And I said, Stuart, I want to learn to live that way.
If you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history with your own eyes, what event, what would you love to see unfold?
I mean, I'd love to hang around the Buddha. That would be pretty terrific.
Right? I had a feeling.
That would be pretty terrific. Or
Yeah.
Krishna, or any of those incredible, Mahasiddhas that lived in Tibet and India, 1,000 years ago. These guys were remarkable. Milarepa, they always paint him with this hand in his ear, listening to the sound of the cosmos. I mean, those were extraordinary. And at the same time, I think, although we live in a different time now and energy is different, and I think the time we live in today has its miracles also.
Yeah.
And my job is to find a way to transform this life I live into something sacred. How do you turn the computer into something sacred? Well, I found Zoom that can
Yeah.
connect me.
That's it.
Everyone, well, we're on Zoom here.
Yeah. Yeah. We figured it out. So, if anybody's ready to take the next step, they want to take a meditation course, your books, all of the wonderful work you're doing, where's the best place for them to go?
I have a website, stuartperrin.com.
Okay.
And, they can go there. Everything is on there. I just posted, I think, 11 podcasts that I've done, on my website. And there's audio, there's video, there's teachings. I have a book on the website called Tantra that I wrote that I got tired of looking for a publisher, so I just put it on the website. And then every book I've ever written, they can find on the website. And also, if they're interested in my classes, they can just get in touch with me at stuartdperrin@gmail.com.
Okay.
And, D is in David, it's my middle, initial. And they can get in touch with me. And honestly, I don't even have a fee for this. I tell people, look, at the end of the month, I send out a virtual begging bowl, at the end of and say whatever you can afford. Some people send $5, some people send a lot more. But I don't want anyone not to be able to attend my classes because they can't afford to attend them.
Yeah,
Even people that don't send money, they're welcome, because it should be available to everybody who truly wants it.
for sure. Well, I will make sure to put all these in the show notes. Stuart, what a wonderful conversation. So great to meet you. Thank you for what you're doing for the world. This is something we need done more. We need this level of enlightenment and love more than ever these days. And this has been an absolute honor. So thank you so much for taking a minute out.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.